Welcome to Conspiracy. I'm Taylor,
And I'm Sammy.
and we're here to unpack and analyze the world's best conspiracy theories. So buckle up and let's jump in. How you doing, Sam?
Not fucking good.
You having a little bit of a coughing fit.
Yeah, and it won't go away.
Yeah, I can tell. It's a little much. So bear with us as we work through this week's podcast. Hopefully Sammy's sitting across from me looking extremely angry because this cough is starting to piss her off. So bear with us as we work through her coughing fit today. So we're back from Yellowstone. It's what, 2-3 days back?
I think this is day 3.
Day 3. Not gonna lie, a little sad. I miss it there. It was absolutely stunning and beautiful. And if I had to pick another place to live, that would definitely be the place to go.
Yeah.
Just absolutely gorgeous.
I'm happy to be back, though.
I mean, it's always nice to come home and like sleep in your own bed, especially when you pick a trip that like when you go, you're not sleeping in a bed. It's not like a luxury vacation in Mexico, like you're going and you're laying on a sleeping pad.
Yeah.
So it's not laying in a nice comfy bed. So it's always nice to come home to that. But I will say every time we go on these trips, we always go through REI. We've plugged them numerous times in our podcast before. I always get this itch to like, I want to get a camper van. And I want to explore the US in the 3 months of summer that I have.
Yeah.
Because it's so beautiful. And you go there and it's like you're walking on a different planet.
I just hate the driving to the places.
That's the one thing. I wish I could just fly and have a camper van there ready for me to go. Like, that would be so convenient. Because I'm definitely not a driver. I like to fly.
Especially for that long a time.
Yeah, and mind you, then I got home and of course I'm like, camper van, let's go. And I'm like, it's an 18-hour drive back to Yellowstone.
I know, it's crazy.
So like that, I would have to break that up. I know myself and I don't necessarily love super long distance driving. Driving to Chicago for 3 hours, my
It's
ass
too much
my
already.
ass is numb. So I'm like, I'd have to break that into like 2 to 3 hour chunks if we went out there in a car. But we're back. Loved the people we went with.
But I always do.
Oh my God. We've been on 3 REI trips, and I can say that I've never been disappointed with any of them, but I feel like every year we go, they just get better. And I think 1 has to do with destination, but 2, the people. Every year, the people just get better and better. This was our longest one, so I think we had a lot more time to maybe bond with them.
Yeah.
But we now have this podcast, and Sammy is more outgoing than I am with it. I get very nervous, like people are going to judge me that I have a podcast, but we took our little business cards and we handed them out to all of, I would consider friends now. They've all were kind of like super supportive on the trip and were kind of eager to maybe listen to the podcast.
Yeah, so if you're here.
Yeah, we
What's
figured
up?
so we figured we'd give the people we went with a shout out because why not? We spent a week with them and we talked heavily about conspiracies and we came back with a lot of extra ideas. So, if by chance you're listening, we want to shout out Seth, David, Becca, Ben, Kate, Chris, Jim, Deborah, Elaine, Jeff, Tatiana, Oleg, and Catherine. You guys were all amazing. You made that trip so incredibly special. We couldn't have done Yellowstone and the Grand Tetons without any one of you. It was truly just an out of this world experience. And me and Sammy are already counting the days to hopefully travel with you guys all again next summer.
It was a blast.
It was, like I said, the best REI trip we've ever taken. Our guides were hands down just flawless. And every year, I don't know why I get nervous that I'm like, oh, I'm going to get a bad guide. And
You think that every time. I'm like,
I'm
they're going to be
always-
just fine.
I'm-
REI would not employ crappy guides.
okay, you don't need to get mad.
No,
but, like-
every year you get this way. You're like, they're going to be bad. I'm like, we never get bad
Well,
guides, so I don't even know why that's in your brain.
I don't know if I would say bad. I'm just worried they're not going to live up to the guides we had the year prior. And every year, the guides top the old guides, which is just amazing to me that someone can do that and make that experience just 10 times better. But yeah, Seth and David were just flawless guides this year. So if you're seriously considering a trip to Yellowstone, hands down, trip of a lifetime, I will definitely be going back.
And do it through REI. They set it up. They
Ugh.
cook. They take you to all the cool places.
I'm just waiting till we're big enough on here that REI will be like, hey, we'll be a sponsor of the show.
That'd be pretty dope.
That'd be awesome because honestly, you guys, I have done a lot of research on these types of like hiking and camping trips, and I always go back to REI. There's never been a company that I'm like, ooh, I'd rather do this instead. REI does a great job of like they plan all the hikes. They have very educated people, so like when you're on the hikes, they can tell you about the wildlife and the trees and the plants that you're seeing. And then they took us back to camp at night. They prepared all my food. They drove me to showers at night. Like they do everything.
Yeah.
And I just can't.
It's worth the money you're spending.
Yeah, I can't think of a better trip to take, especially if you're an outdoorsy person or even if you're not. Because I remember when we took our very first REI trip, I was really, really nervous.
But it was also backpacking. It was like
Yeah.
a totally different thing.
But I was really nervous because, like, yes, we were outdoorsy people, but I don't think we were to the extent that we are now.
Yeah.
I think we are.
And to start with a backpacking trip was kind of wild.
Yeah, it really was. Like, what were we fucking thinking? But no, it's REI is the way to go. And if you're not outdoorsy, don't worry. They take it at your pace, and they definitely make you feel very comfortable and safe on these types of trips.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what I need when I go on them, because you get a little anxious, just like you never know what's gonna happen and how it's gonna run, but it always runs smoothly and it's beautiful and it's worth every penny that you're willing to put into it. The last little update I want to give before we actually jump into this week's episode is a chicken update.
We got chickens.
Which
I think we've told you that we've gotten chickens.
We talked about, I think, when we first got chicks, or I got chicks.
They're like chickens now.
They're
they're
like-
getting big.
They are, I would say, about halfway to adult, and they're so
a third
You
of the way.
think?
Yeah, talking to Brian, he said it's a third of the way.
Well, regardless, they're getting towards adulthood, and it's sad to watch them grow, because when they were little baby chicks, they just fit in your little hand.
They were fit in 2 hands now.
And you had to wrangle them if you want them. The coop is damn near done. It's looking really good, and they're loving it, and it's been a lot of fun. I heavily recommend backyard chicken raising. Whether you live in the city or the country, look at your ordinances and get you some chickens.
I have something in my eye.
Great.
I'm falling apart.
You're just over here coughing up a storm and choking on air, and you can't see out of an eye. Are you like Seth? Did you rub it too hard?
That sounded really wrong.
Okay, do you not remember?
Yes, but it sounded like he was rubbing something else.
I'm just going to leave that in there, and Seth can just listen and be like, the fuck?
I don't think Seth will listen.
I don't think he will either, but you never know.
He's going to be in the middle of the forest.
He's not going to get any signal or reception. I do want to give a trigger warning like I did on my last episode. This episode does have talks of murder and body manipulation in it. There are some times where what I'm going to say does get very upsetting, and I will warn you prior to me actually saying those things, but I wanted to give you a heads up that if you have a weak stomach or if topics of murder and things like that can be upsetting, that maybe this just isn't the episode for you. So we are on episode 22 or week 22 of the podcast. Did you ever think we'd get this far?
Yeah.
I mean, I thought we would. I was really nervous that we wouldn't have a following, but like we're well over 100 now, which is just insane to me. And
we're moving up.
we're moving up, you guys, and it's exciting
And
to watch
mind you,
that grow.
100 doesn't seem like much, but to me, I'm like, that's 100 people
That's 100 people I'm reaching. That's
that
just
are listening. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah.
and we're getting more engagement on our Instagram, and we're getting more engagement on Spotify finally. Like we're kind of growing there, which is exciting because that one really kind of took a while. I mean, granted, I think we're at like 19 followers on Spotify, so it's not crazy, but hey, we are grateful for anyone that listens there. But like I said, we are on episode 22. We're damn near halfway through an entire year, which is, again, bonkers to me. This is the closest we've ever cut it, because I thought we had an episode banked for this week, and we don't. And I'm literally recording this the day before it drops. So when you listen tomorrow, know that
We recorded this yesterday.
I stressed as I recorded and edited to drop this today. So this week's conspiracy is one that has haunted the entire world since the year 1888.
Ooh, a long time ago.
A long time ago. Today we'll
Haunted the entire world?
the entire world.
Okay.
So it's specifically haunted one place for a very long time, but
It's
now
said to be kind of everywhere?
not everywhere. It haunted a certain place for a very long time, but then it has grown to a phenomenon around the world.
Okay.
Today we'll be investigating the identity of Jack the Ripper.
You didn't even let me guess.
Do you want to go back?
I wonder what it is.
Were you going to actually guess?
I was going to guess Jack the Ripper.
Were you really?
Yeah.
No, you weren't.
Yeah, I was.
We can go back, re-record. The public will never know.
That's okay.
You were not going to guess Jack the
No, I
Ripper.
wasn't.
So we'll be investigating the identity of Jack the Ripper. This week does pivot towards the true crime side of conspiracy again, but I will tell you there is heavy conspiracy in this, because sometimes with true crime I'm like, is it really conspiracy or not? Like,
You can kind of flip.
I feel like all true crime is conspiracy because you conspiratize. Is that a word? Conspiratize?
Because you're basically trying to think of ways of how did this person actually die.
Yeah. How did they
There's
die
different
and
modes. There's different, yeah.
who was the killer? So we do kind of flip a little more towards the true crime side of things this week. I will say before we get into background, I feel like this week's episode could have potential to be our first ever 2-part episode.
So you might get part this week and part next week.
Like all other podcasts, let's begin with the background information that we have. The year is 1888, and there's a killer on the loose. When I was writing this, because I have like my little script in front of me here, I was like, damn, I feel like a fucking author. The year is 1888, and there's a killer on the loose. I felt so cool writing that. Now that I'm saying it and you're looking at me the way you are, I feel very insecure. Let me start by saying that there is something called the Canonical, is how I pronounce it. The Canonical 5, which essentially is like the original 5
Is it
murders.
conical 5?
Maybe that's what it is. Anyways, essentially what it means is the original 5 murders in this. Because there were more murders that took place after, but they really heavily lean towards these 5 being the original murders of Jack the Ripper.
Okay.
I will say off of that tangent that there, like I said before, there were other murders that took place after. The original 5 took place in 1888, but then there were other murders that they sometimes maybe linked to Jack the Ripper, and those took place up until 1891. These murders have been suspected to be linked to Jack the Ripper, but there's no actual proof that the killer was the same for all of the bodies.
That's a very short time frame then.
I know.
88 to 91.
Yeah, it's about a 3-year time frame, and not even a full 3 years. I'd say about
And
2.5.
that's to have killed the first 5?
No, first 5 were all in 1888.
Oh,
But then there were some other murders that they thought
that could have been linked back?
Yeah,
Okay.
that could have been linked to him or her. We don't know. But those took place in the 2 years preceding that time. The 5 original women, I'm going to give you their names and the dates in which they're found, and eventually we will jump into each of these women. And God forbid, I will probably say these names wrong. Just bear with me. We have Mary Ann Nicholas. She was found on August 31st. And like I said, all these were 1888. We have Annie Chapman. She was found September 8th. Elizabeth Stride, found September 30th. Catherine Eddowes, found September 30th as well. And Mary Jane Kelly, found November 9th.
So that was like within like 3 months.
Yeah, very, very short time frame. And I think the reason that they really seclude all the other killings after that is because they weren't so close in time.
Okay.
So we really look at So we really look at these main 5. We will look at some of the other murders that took place. They were just more spread out, and some people were like, is it still him? Is it someone else? What's going on?
And I know you're probably going to go into it, but were they all killed in the same way?
We will talk about that.
Okay.
I don't want to get too ahead of myself because I have extensive notes on them.
Okay.
And some of them yes, some of them no.
Okay.
So something else I want to mention here is that these 5 women were all assumed to be prostitutes.
Okay.
So if I'm hoping if you're listening to this podcast, you're a grown adult, you know what a prostitute is. But if you don't, they are normally women that solicit their body on the street.
Do you really want to teach that to kids?
If you're a child, get off this podcast. You shouldn't be listening. This is not a podcast for children. I drop the F-bomb every other word sometimes. Supposedly, all of them except Kelly were killed while soliciting on the streets.
Okay.
So 4 of the 5 were out doing their
job.
Doing their nightly job. So the biggest reason we assume or determine that all 5 of these women were killed by the same person is due to the way in which they were killed. Like you had said earlier, you were like, oh, like what was the manner in which their bodies were found? These 5 specifically were found very, very similar. Other murders down the road had similarities, but there were some differences there too. Each of the 5 women, all of them, had their throats slit. So that was that. I know. Talk about.
I am not a fan of that.
Are you a fan of any murder?
Well, that's very intimate. Like you have to look into their eyes as you slit their throat.
Not necessarily. You could come from behind.
Well, yeah, you could, but it's like strangulation. Like that is a very intimate death.
Yeah. Like
I'm not about it.
No. It's just like I said, this episode.
I don't condone murder.
I would hope not. Like I said, this episode is quite upsetting, and before I get into like each woman and their body and how it was left, I will warn you. All of them had their throats slit. Some of them also had other things in addition to that, but every single one, their throat was slit. Like I had said, additionally, in addition to the throats being slit, their bodies were manipulated in a very upsetting manner.
Were they raped?
That is one thing that was very strange to me because none of the women there were no signs of rape.
Which really gives that vibe.
It gives the vibe because if they were prostitutes,
Yeah.
it would be like maybe a man that didn't want to pay and he was like, fuck you, and was taking it anyway.
Yeah.
But none of the bodies were found in a condition in which they assumed rape.
Okay.
They were just horribly, horribly murdered, thus leaving the public to assume that Jack the Ripper had a strong understanding of human anatomy and the way that their bodies were manipulated.
Okay.
And I will say this numerous times, likely throughout this podcast. Jack the Ripper was assumed to be a doctor, assumed to be a barber, or a butcher for having such knowledge of
Like
the human body.
muscles and
Yeah.
connections.
And knowing like where everything's located in the body and how he decided to
move things.
dissect. I don't
Okay.
know if that's probably the right word,
Okay.
because that's essentially what he did. We will now look at each.
Would he like take out the stomach and like smack it to the head?
We're gonna get into that. We're
I
gonna
guess
get.
I don't know much about Jack the Ripper.
I thought I knew a lot from the BuzzFeed episode of Ryan and Shane. I had no fucking clue. And like I said, oh God, it's upsetting. So
It's deep.
this is where if you have a weak stomach or these types of things,
We're gonna get into the nitty gritty, so brace yourself.
it gets dark and upsetting. And let me tell you, researching this at 1:30 in the morning in my bedroom in the dark by myself at night, terrifying.
Technically, that'd be in the morning.
Don't make me smack you with a bat.
You guys all heard it. She's gonna murder me if I die. She did it.
It was not. I ended up. I had to close my laptop. I'm like, I'll just finish this in the morning. So I woke up at 9 and I kept going, but I had to like keep a light on for a while and turn on a happy TV show. I just laid in bed like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Did you hear that? And then I would sit there and mind you, Mom scared the fuck out of me when she decided to go to the bathroom at 2:30 in the morning because I was laying in my bed going,
You're like,
ah, because I heard walking. Thank God I heard it from her room because I was like, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. I have a base, or I took the golf club from downstairs. It's next to my bed right now because I was just terrified. So, sidetrack. Sorry. Back onto, we are going to look at each individual woman of the first 5 original women that were murdered, and we're going to look at where they were discovered, when they were discovered, and how they were discovered.
okay. And
Damn.
what happened to them?
Yeah. So, well, we know what happened. They were all murdered. We are going to first begin with the very first victim of Mary Ann Nicholas.
September.
No,
No, August.
there you go. Mary's body was discovered at 3:40 a.m. on Friday, August 31st. Something you will notice as we continue on is there's a very strong pattern as to when these bodies are discovered.
Fridays.
No.
Oh.
Very, very early in the morning.
Oh,
But nice,
okay.
nice try. Her body was found, and I will put a map on Instagram for everyone to look at so you can see like where the bodies were found because they're all in the same neighborhood. So it's not.
If I was a female in that neighborhood, I would be like, I think I'm gonna take a break from prostitution
Well,
for
like,
a little bit.
the first body, I'd probably been like, ooh, that's a little scary, and I maybe would have hid for a little bit. But I guess if you're a prostitute, you gotta like
You
get
gotta
back.
make your money somehow.
But then, as the bodies started racking up, I'd have been like, I'm done. I'd rather be poor and live under a bridge than risk my body out here and get killed. But I guess I digress on that. Her body was found on Bucks Row in Whitechapel. Whitechapel is like a neighborhood or a suburb of London. It's just or England, London, England.
Okay.
You know what I mean. So all these murders did take place in Whitechapel. I will also note that. Something that I found interesting, and I found it interesting for each of these women, is it was stated that about an hour prior to finding her dead body, she was seen alive.
God, only an hour.
I know. So like in a
That
very,
sucks.
very short time frame, she was murdered.
Okay. And it sounds brutally.
Oh, all of them. And mind you, they're all found like within minutes of like being seen alive. There's not like her body was found a week after and rigor
Yeah.
mortis had set in. It was just,
It was fast.
it was very fast. Upon being found, they discovered the following wounds on Mary's body. Trigger warning, I want to scream that here. Her throat was slit in 2 separate cuts. One of the cuts was so deep, it severed tissue down to the vertebrae. So all the way to the back of her neck.
That's pretty deep.
Pretty deep, damn near severed the head. Her vagina was stabbed twice, and her lower abdomen was partially ripped open by a deep, jagged wound, causing her bowels to pop out.
Ow.
That's all you got? Ow. There were additional incisions.
Oh, why would you stab the vagina?
It makes no sense to me. That part, and mind you, I think in all my research, she was the only one stabbed in the vagina.
That just seems like a weird spot to go at.
Yeah, especially because like it's already an opening.
Like, I hope her throat was already slit at that point because I would not want to live through that.
I feel like, based on a lot of the research I'd done, It sounds as if this killer
Killed
wanted
them first?
Yeah, wanted the body dead, and then afterwards, like, got happy and, like, just kept going.
Okay.
So that was kind of the vibe I got from a lot of the things that I found. And mind you, as I was doing this research, the word I'm about to use is not the word I would have used, but I wanted to throw it in here just so you know. It says there were additional incisions. No, not incisions, fucking stab wounds.
Yeah.
There were stab wounds found on both sides of her abdomen. So, like, on top of cutting her stomach open, stabbing her, and slitting her throat, he just, like, jabbed in her sides numerous times.
Okay.
They were all determined to be done by the exact same knife. So,
All of the stab wounds
all
on
the
this
stab
on this
wounds and
woman?
cuts. So
Okay.
if it was a butcher's knife, they were all done with the same knife. It's not like he switched it up and was like, "Ooh, I need a different blade size."
Okay.
So all were determined to be done by the same knife. That is Mary Ann Nicholas. We now move on to Annie Chapman. And I think it's Chapman. It's Chap.
It's Chapman.
Man. About a week after the first killing, Annie Chapman's body was discovered dead on Saturday, September 8th. She was found around 6 a.m. that morning. So, again, another very early morning. It was about a week later, and another.
Where are they found? Are they found like in a building on the side of the street?
So, the very first one, she was discovered on a street, Bucks Row.
Okay, so she was just in the road.
So, she was found, it sounds like she was just like left for dead on the sidewalk.
Okay.
That was the first one. And each person I have where they were
Do
found.
we know, is there like a ton of blood on the sidewalk? Like she was stabbed there or was she dumped there?
Most of it sounds as if they were killed in the spot they were found.
Okay.
It's not like, oh, I killed her in a basement and carried her out.
Okay.
It sounds like they were
Done there.
They were killed where they were found. She was found by steps that led to a doorway of a backyard on 29 Hambury Street in Spattlefields. It's literally like
someone's backyard.
It's like Whitechapel. It's the same like town area, and there was a photo of it. It looks as if it was just like you were gonna go into like someone's property.
Okay.
That's what it looked like. I think she got caught in the wrong place at the wrong time and just got murdered there. She was last seen alive at 5:30 a.m., 30 minutes prior to being found dead.
Okay.
So this was even faster work than the first time. The last time, it was an hour in between. We're now 30 minutes. So in a 30-minute time period, she was brutally murdered. Chapman was also discovered with her throat slit with 2 deep cuts. So again, another similarity. The throat was cut twice. Her abdomen was cut entirely open. This is where I wanted to vomit, probably for like the millionth time. A section of flesh from her abdomen was cut entirely off and placed at her left shoulder.
On it or next to it? Like on the ground?
I want to say it was placed on it for this one. It's weird because sometimes it's placed next to, sometimes it's placed on.
Okay.
I don't think there was a rhyme or reason as to why this murderer did that. Another section of flesh, along with the small intestines, were placed above her right shoulder.
Okay.
No idea as to why. This killer definitely liked placing things by the shoulders. I will say that. Later, after an autopsy was performed, it was revealed to the public that her uterus and part of her bladder and vagina had also been removed.
Were they there?
No, gone from the scene.
Okay.
No idea where they are. That is Annie Chapman's death. Can you imagine this being released to the public and you're like, okay, now this is 2 women that have been brutally murdered in a way I would never want to be murdered.
Like one, why would you want somebody else's uterus?
It's like the whole, who is the guy that took people's skin?
Dahmer?
No, not Dahmer. Ed Gein.
Okay.
Ed Gein, which I don't know if I want to plug this, but my great-grandparents were neighbors. We live in Wisconsin, and they were neighbors to
him. Yeah, you would go to their bar all the time.
Yeah, because they owned a bar, and he would just like show up, and they say like he was like normal.
Yeah, you wouldn't have had any idea.
You wouldn't have suspected
Which,
until.
I mean, they say that about everybody, but
Yeah. Well, it's like I never thought he'd be a murderer.
I had no clue.
We were best friends, but like, yeah, plugging that in there. Great grandparents knew the guy. Not that that's something to be proud of. That's really fucking scary. But I almost think, kind of like Ed Gein, that taking parts from the women was like a trophy.
Okay.
Like, oh, I murdered her.
But I'm like, what do you do? Put it in a jar and be like, this was Annie?
This was Annie.
Annie Chapman.
And I don't know.
On this date.
Because my thing is, did he even know their names? Did he even fucking care?
He probably had no clue.
I just assumed that he was like, ooh, there's a woman over there, and I'm in the mood to fucking kill. Like, I don't know. I doubt he ever learned their names, but I get the vibe, especially as I keep going in these murders, that he took
Would
it.
he be the type to like, when it gets printed in the paper, like cut it out and like save it somewhere?
Yes.
You think so?
He gives the vibe because we're going to get to a part a little later on in the background that He gives the vibe that he would be like, they're talking
was
about
me.
Yeah, they're talking, and like
Okay.
gets a high from it.
Okay. That's just sick.
It is sick, completely sick. Then we have our third victim, Elizabeth Stride. When we look at Elizabeth, we find that she was discovered around 1 a.m. in Dutfield's yard off Burner Street in Whitechapel. So again, same town.
New
Found in-
England or like England
Yeah.
things are so hard to pronounce.
They are. They really are.
Like Wishire.
And I'm probably saying all these things wrong, but some English person, you can guest appearance on the podcast and correct all my words. And she was found on September 30th. The only thing with her is that I could not find a time for the last time she was seen alive.
Okay.
So it's
But
not
what
like
time was she killed? Or
1
was she
a.m.
discovered? Okay.
She was discovered at 1 a.m. So I would assume if she was a lady of the night, she was probably seen within a couple hours prior to this death.
Yeah.
The cause of her death was a single clean cut across her neck.
Oh, he's getting cleaner.
Elizabeth's death was one of the strangest of the original 5. She was only cut with a single slit to the throat. There was no further damage done anywhere on her body. Now, here's where there's
What if this is a copycat?
this is where there's some conversation on this killer. Some speculate that maybe it was a copycat killer, and they're like,
'Cause, I mean, usually it was 2 slashes to the throat and then a whole bunch of other lacerations.
exactly. So a lot of people go copycat, but then some people go someone was walking up and he was about to get caught.
Okay.
And they're like, he was like, I gotta get the fuck out of here so I don't get caught.
Okay.
It really, and mind you, when you look at the audience that look at Jack the Ripper, it's about 50-50 split.
Of what is believed?
Yeah, like, oh my God, it was a copycat killer. And then a lot of people are like, I think if given the proper amount of time, he would have killed her the exact same way.
Okay.
Because it took place.
Where was she found again?
She was found in someone's yard on a burner street in Whitechapel.
Can you imagine waking up in the morning and being like, oh my God, dead body?
Don't worry, you didn't have to wake up in the morning because someone discovered her at 1 a.m.
Still, I just couldn't even imagine.
you
it
imagine
being
just
yeah,
like
there was
a-
a dead body in my backyard yesterday?
Ma'am, you need to come to your door because there's a dead body out here. Do you know anything about it?
Absolutely no.
Yeah. So, hers was the most mysterious death. The reason that she's heavily linked to Jack the Ripper is her throat was slit.
Same neighborhood.
And it was in the same neighborhood. And it was September 30th. The last one took place on September 8th. So within
But isn't there 2 on September 30th? He really went ham then.
yes. So
I mean, he was quick. Maybe he didn't get his full
he's like, I got to get another one.
Well, he didn't get to finish this one, so he felt he needed to go do another.
It could be that. It definitely could. Or maybe she just didn't put up a fight like some of the other people did. I don't know. So like you had said, Elizabeth Stride, she was killed on September 30th. But then we also had victim number 2 killed on September 30th. Her name was Catherine Eddowes. I don't know what it is.
What time?
We'll get that in a sec. Oh, I can tell you. 1:45 a.m. is when she was discovered.
Ooh, that's fast.
Yeah. But something about her name, it just sounds like a very Catherine Eddowes. I don't know. Sounds kind of badass. But she was the 4th victim, and her body was discovered. God, I hate these names. On the corner of Mitre Square, Mitre Square, in the heart of the city of London. So she was pretty centralized. And when I look at a map, and
Was it far away from her?
I want to
last one?
say it was within a couple
Couple
blocks.
blocks. Okay.
So her body,
It's doable.
body number 1, found at 1 a.m. 45 minutes later, another body. When I was doing the research, it was like she was found 3/4 of the hour later, and I'm like, can't you just say 45 minutes
And
later?
you're like, what's 3/4 of the hour?
Oh, I know that, but I'm just like, why are we being so English?
FOMO.
But she was found about 45 minutes later, around 1:45 a.m. on September 30th. Eddowes' throat was severed from ear to ear. Her abdomen was ripped.
Yowza.
I know. Can you imagine? That's like a
But again,
long ass
still
cut.
not 2 slashes.
No, that was the other weird part. Is the first 2 victims, there were 2 slashes to the throat. These 2 victims, there was only 1, which I
Okay.
mean, still had his throat slit, but not 2. I don't know. It could be a little different. Maybe he got tired. His arm was exhausted. Or
That
her.
or they didn't fight back as much. Who knows?
Yeah, you never know. So her throat was severed from ear to ear. Her abdomen was ripped open by a long and deep cut.
Wow.
I know. But this is why everyone goes, it's the same killer, because
It's very similar.
he had
tactic.
a thing.
He had a calling card.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to call it later, a calling card. Because that's what it is. Her intestines had been taken out and placed on her right shoulder.
Okay.
Her left kidney and large part of her uterus had been removed from her body. Nowhere to be found from what I was able to
Just
find.
1 kidney.
just her left kidney, the left
Okay.
one.
Alright.
The rumor is, and I tried to research it and I ended up forgetting about it as I kept going in my research, is apparently half of it might have been sent to the police station at some point. But I
Oh, like
forgot.
the kidney was like
Yeah.
sent
And
anonymously?
yeah, like
Okay.
half of it. Not the whole thing, just half.
Okay.
But the whole thing was missing. Additionally, her face had been disfigured, her nose severed, her cheek cut, and there were incisions made on her eyelids. God.
Yeah, this was a retaliation kill, man.
It was like he
'Cause
didn't
he
get
didn't
enough in
get
the
enough
first
in that
one.
first one.
Because, like, prior to this, there were no, like, mutilations done to the face. This was new in this killing. One section of Edo's bloodied clothing, it was specific to an apron she had been wearing, was found by an entrance of a building. And mind you, there was the name of the building. I just deleted it from my notes because I couldn't even begin to try to pronounce it.
Okay.
But it was found by a building in Whitechapel, and this was discovered at 2:55. So a little over an hour later, this was found.
This was her piece of clothing.
Yes.
Okay.
It was part of her apron. So it's almost like, I mean, he intentionally did this. It's like he ripped part of it and left it there.
Implanted it.
Because right above where this bloody clothing was found was a note written in chalk on the building. And it read, and I will say, I'll try to remember to post this note on Instagram because the way he spells certain things
Is off.
is off. And it leads us to believe that maybe he didn't write fluently in English. The Jews, and he spelled Jews Juwes, not Jews.
Okay.
The Jews are the men that will not be blamed for nothing. A lot of people kind of depict this as it's a Jewish person doing these killings because like we're trying to pit it on Jewish people. Back then there was a lot of drama. Like we know that
It was 1800s. So
there was
yeah.
a lot going on, but it sounds as if this killer was trying to really be like, it's Jewish people doing this. It's a Jewish person. That's what a lot of people assume that this message was supposed to mean. We now move on to Mary Jane Kelly. She's our last victim of the original 5. She was discovered lying on a bed in a single room where she had lived on Miller's Court in Spratis Fields. There was another killing. Essentially, it's another suburb of Whitechapel. She was found at 10:45 a.m. So
Late.
later, but the reason I think she was found so late is because she was not outside like the other 4 bodies. She was found inside her residence.
Gosh,
This was
now
done.
he's breaking in.
Yeah.
At least from what we think.
From what it sounds like, being a prostitute, she might have invited him in.
Okay.
She was found on Friday, November 9th. Let me tell you, Sammy, her injuries are something
I don't even relate to the other earlier ones.
I saw a picture. And I wish I had never seen this photo. It is very
Surprised
upsetting.
there's a picture out there.
There were quite a few photos, but her crime scene photo is so upsetting. I would never recommend looking it up. It's something straight out of a nightmare. I wish I could go back and just not have seen it, especially not seeing it at 2 a.m. in the morning when I'm sitting by myself in my room alone. But sadly, I have seen it, so I just had to move forward and deal with the trauma that has now ensued on my brain. Her body was extensively manipulated and disemboweled. Her face was hacked beyond recognition, and I can attest to that. Looking at the face, if you wouldn't have known who lived in that house, you wouldn't have known it was her.
Was it just that there was like chunks of skin ripped off, or it was just gashed beyond belief?
Gashed beyond belief, pieces missing, chunks taken out. Her face was gone.
Okay.
Her throat was severed down to the spine. Like
Okay.
clean cut, damn near took the head off. Her abdomen almost emptied of every organ in there. Her
Okay.
uterus, kidneys, and one breast had been placed beneath her head. Her heart was missing entirely from the crime scene.
Okay.
Why?
He must have had an enormous amount of time
With this one,
being
because he
able
was
to
inside.
be inside and be
Inside.
guarded.
And I didn't put this in the notes, but I do remember because this was part of my research this morning.
And that's just sick.
Being inside, but then they were trying to like depict like when this could have been done. They think he had left maybe a couple of hours prior because there were still hot embers in the fireplace that he had lit to maybe have light to see the killing take place. Because there were
Did they ever find like footprints or anything? Or
I think
I
back in the
this was
time
earlier
it was,
before like
yeah.
fingerprints and stuff, but
I mean now as we keep moving, like some DNA has potentially been linked, but
okay, but
it's over
it's so
100 years
old.
later. That's the hard part. But yeah, so like hot coals were found in the fire, assuming that he was doing this all by firelight and, getting his enjoyment. The thing that was weird to me is he was always known, especially if he was going to take something, it was likely going to be like the uterus. And yes, the uterus and the kidney had been removed but not taken. Her heart was missing from the crime scene. So like
But he might never been able to get the heart before, but because he was able to be secluded and nobody was going to see it, he might have been able to do more dissection. Because I'm sorry, you got to go through the sternum or up through the
Do you know
rib
how hard
cage
it would
to
be
be
to
able
break a sternum?
to get to the heart. Like that would be tough.
Just from the amount that I've been interested in like surgery and stuff, like to crack a chest is not an easy feat. So this man, the willpower he had to get into this body, he must have wanted
he
it.
went up through. I mean, if he emptied the entire abdomen area, you'd be able to go up through the diaphragm and get to it. But
this was like the first time that he emptied everything. And the weird part is like he took it out and like placed it below her head. Like what does that even mean? Part of me is like I don't think I even want to know. Well,
like if he's a doctor, I don't want him operating on me.
Yeah. And here's the other thing, and like I had said prior to even talking about these women, and I'll say it again later on, a lot of people assume, okay, he had to have been a surgeon because he had such extensive knowledge on the human body.
Was it clean extractions?
That is where it gets a little different because a lot of people know that a lot of the cuts were jagged and not straight. And if you're a surgeon, you're gonna have
pretty precise.
You're gonna have a steady hand. Cuts. A lot of people are like, okay, maybe he was a surgeon and he was just nervous because like he was intentionally killing someone. But they're also like, if you're a surgeon, you're gonna have a clean cut and you're gonna get in there.
Yeah,
but
you should.
Then people also debate on the other side of, was he trying to throw you off the trail of like, I'm not a surgeon. I'm doing this half-assed.
If you're in that point where you're murdering somebody, you're not even going to be thinking about it, and you're going to naturally make cuts like you normally do.
Yeah, I mean, you never know.
I feel like you'd be more apt to be like a butcher or something.
And that was another profession that they were assuming it could have been a butcher because
they remove
handy
those
with
from
a knife.
Animals all the time.
Yeah, and you're good with a knife.
Yeah.
The other one that was weird to me is a lot of people assume barbers, and I'm like, why would a barber have extensive knowledge of the? Yeah. I didn't, but they said that they'd be good with a sharp weapon.
I guess.
That's why.
Cutting hair, though, is totally different than cutting skin and organs.
That's what I thought it was weird, but barber was like literally the number 2. It was surgeon, barber, then butcher. So, not sure why, but barbers heavily assumed.
Maybe barbers did more back then.
Maybe something else is going on. So, as we move on, what is unique about the original 5? Because I don't even know what that fucking word is. Conical 5? I don't know. The original 5. Is that all the murders took place at night, so that isn't common.
They were kind of discovered early morning, except for that last one.
Yeah, they were, well, yeah. But even then, it's 10:45, that's still in the morning. Discovered in the morning. The other part that I want to note, because this will come up later, is that they all took place on or very close to a weekend. They did not take place during the week.
Yep.
A lot of people assumed that maybe this murderer had a day job. We'll come back to that in a little bit. And the other thing I want to mention is all of them took place at the end of a month or like within a week after an end. So like there was like a 2-week time frame that he always struck. There would be like 2 weeks in between some of the murders.
Either end of the month or like very beginning of the month.
Yes, but it was always on or very, very close to a weekend, towards the end or very, very beginning of a month. But something else police noted was that the body manipulations became increasingly more severe with each murder that he had.
I think he probably was getting more and more comfortable.
Yeah, I think more comfortable and like maybe they say
more
like
educated.
You get like a high from it.
You just continue.
Yeah.
I mean, that last one was damn near empty.
But yeah, they think that maybe he was getting like a high from it and he was just like, I gotta keep going. And like I have said numerous times throughout this podcast is police over there really do believe that all 5 of these murders were committed by the exact same person. Even the one that only had the throat slit.
The fact that there was another murder so close in time frame, it makes you think that like it was just like a chop job quick.
Yeah, and a lot of people do assume that like he maybe heard footsteps, like someone was approaching and he's like, I just have to go. There are an additional 4 killings that took place from 1888 to 1891, and these deaths are not for sure linked to Jack the Ripper, but a lot of people assume that there is a great possibility that it was him. We'll briefly go over these 4 women because they're just very...
You said over the next 2 years?
Yeah, okay. So like the 2 years that precede.
It's weird that he would have such a like killing spree over the course of 3.5 months, really.
And when we get into
to all of a sudden go cold turkey.
And when we get into the theories, some of that could maybe be explained, maybe. But that's the thing is like, was there fear of I'm going to get caught? Was like, what was going on that maybe you waited so long? Or was it just a copycat killer?
Yeah.
So when we look at the next 4 that are assumed to maybe be done by the Ripper, we look at Rose Millet It's Mylett.
Still all female?
Yes,
Okay.
all female.
Prostitutes?
Some yes, some no. I didn't even mention that in here, but yes, some of them were. I don't think all of them were though.
Okay.
So Rose was found on High Street on December 20th. So the last murder that took place was November. So this was only about a month later.
Okay.
Not a
Was
huge
High Street still in that same neighborhood?
Whitechapel.
Okay.
Yes. So still in the same vicinity. About a month later, December 20th, not necessarily the end of a month, but towards an end of the month. And I didn't actually get a day on which this happened, if it was a weekend or not. I should have jotted that down. But she was found December 20th of 1888, a month later. So not long after those original 5 murders. When found, there was no sign of struggle with her. This is what kind of makes people think that maybe it wasn't Jack the Ripper. Police believe that she had either accidentally hung herself with her collar while drunk or
Okay.
that she had committed suicide. Because
Was it more of like a hanging?
kind of, she was not found hanging, but she was found strangled.
Okay.
So her death was done by strangulation, and a lot of people go, this couldn't have been the Ripper because he had like a signature.
Yeah.
And granted, a lot of people go, well, this could have been his signature because death was still done by the neck, just in a different way. Throat wasn't slit, but she was strangled to death around
Was
the
she
neck.
still mutilated?
No mutilations.
Then I'm thinking no.
That's why a lot of people, there's a huge debate of like, was this him just doing it different, trying to change the signature, or was this a copycat or just a completely different murderer? I guess we'll never know.
Yeah.
A jury did label this as a murder crime. So, like, it wasn't labeled, oh, she killed
suicide?
her. Yeah. Because police were like, we think that it was either an accident.
It's kind of hard to like strangle yourself.
Well, that's why people
Unless
think.
you physically like hang yourself, like just to like tie a rope around your throat or whatever the heck they think happened.
And it didn't go into great detail. It just says that they think that she might have been drunk and she accidentally like got her collar stuck and she ended up strangling herself and dying.
Okay.
And then some people go, well,
like,
maybe.
Because you got to be strangling for a while.
Yeah.
To die.
Yeah. And then the other one is that they thought maybe it was like she tried to commit suicide, but then like she wasn't found like hanging from something.
Yeah.
She was just found with strangulation. Like that's how she died. So when the jury finally looked at the case,
There's
they're
definitely
like
some like foul play involved.
yeah, the jury definitely determined that and said that this was not a suicide or an accident, that this was a murder. The next one of these 4 people is Alice Mackenzie. She was murdered shortly after midnight. So at night.
Okay.
But it took place on July 17th.
Long time.
So now we have
almost waited 6 months.
A 9-month jump from the very first murder of the original 5. If you look at his last murder of the original 5, it's about a 7-month jump. So there is time in between, and a lot of people use that as, well, it couldn't have been him, but I guess we'll never know. Alice had suffered 2 stab wounds to the neck.
Stab wounds or cuts?
Stab wounds.
Okay.
So stabbed in the neck, and I didn't write down the exact artery, but one went to the artery and she died. It sounds like right away.
Carotid.
It wasn't carotid because I knew that one. I don't remember. It was something in the neck, but stabbed her, and it looks like there was not maybe struggle, that she just died. She was found with many minor bruises and cuts found on her body. One of those cuts being 7 inches long, found leading from her left breast to her belly button. So again, the abdomen area.
Yep, targeting that.
So. And that's all I have for Alice. So a lot of people
like nothing was extracted?
Nothing was extracted, but
still.
The throat was cut, or I shouldn't say, the throat was stabbed, and her abdomen was cut open with a 7-inch long cut. So some people go, is it a copycat killer?
It's giving more copycat
because I feel like maybe another person was like, I'm going to be Jack the Ripper. But then as they started doing it, they're like, I can't do this. This is too much.
Because I'm like, a stab to the neck versus a slice to the neck are 2 very different things.
Exactly.
And then you can cut the abdomen, but then not extracting stuff is very different.
Not being disemboweled like every other victim just seems different. So a lot of people.
And with the other one, it was usually that there was always something missing.
Yes.
Like something was taken as like a calling card or something was taken as a trophy.
Yeah. It's just a little odd. There's just a lot of speculation on these other 4 because a lot of people go, was the high not there for him anymore? Did he just not love it the way he used to? Or is it someone else doing it? Because, like, again, there's just such a huge time jump that, like, so much time has passed. And, like, why would you come back out and start killing again? And did you come back out and start killing again and it just wasn't the same for you?
Yeah.
Who knows? We then, and this one does not have a name. It's called, I fucking hate these names. Pinchin Street Torso.
Pinchin Street Torso?
Yes. So
Three words?
it's not a, yeah. Well, it's Pinchin Street
Okay.
Torso because we don't know who this person was. There was a torso of a woman's body discovered beneath a railway arch on Pinchin Street in Whitechapel.
Just a torso.
Just a torso.
Oh, God.
Yeah. It was found on September 10th, about a year after the original killings of 1889. So the killings took place in August of 1888. So about a year and a month later was this torso discovered. There was bruising on the victim's back and hip of this torso, leading us to assume.
Does the torso include legs?
No.
It's like legs, arms, head is missing?
All gone. Just
Okay.
the torso. Leading us to assume that there had been extensive beating shortly prior to the death because of all the bruising.
Okay.
But my thing is, like, again, this is, like, not the calling card that he left with other bodies. Or did
This
it
is
just...
so much more brutal.
It's 10 times worse.
Well, and where are all the pieces?
Never found. From what I was able to find,
Yeah.
they were never found. So, again, no name. It's just the Pinchin... I'm probably not even saying it wrong. The Pinchin Street Torso. Because there's not a name because we don't know who it is.
Okay.
The last of these 4 is called Frances Coles. I shouldn't say the last of these 4. This woman is named Frances Coles. Her body was discovered at 2:15 a.m. So again, in the morning, on February 13th of 1891. So this was a
couple years later.
A decent jump. She was found beneath a railway arch. So again, just like the other one, but she was found at Shallow Gardens in Whitechapel. So just a different railway arch, but again, in Whitechapel.
Okay.
Her throat was deeply cut, but her body was still intact. When discovered, Frances, this is the hard part. When discovered, she was still alive, but by the time medical attention got there, she died.
Ugh.
Yeah. So the person that found her...
obviously wasn't as educated enough to know where to cut to kill.
Yeah. And by the time medical attention had arrived, she had shortly passed.
That's fucking horrible.
Yeah. I mean, part of me goes, I have comfort...
I think all of these are copycats. I don't think they're the same.
I would agree. These next 4,
none of them are close enough. It seems like they're trying.
Yes.
But none of them are close enough to have that same calling card, the same things that the original Jack the Ripper did.
I would have to agree. It's just so upsetting. The one thing that, and I don't even want to say it gives me comfort because none of this gives me comfort. The one thing that if I had to take comfort away is that at least she didn't die alone. Is like someone
Did
found...
someone find her?
Yeah, someone found her and sat with her while waiting for attention and she ended up passing.
Okay.
So at least she wasn't alone, but again, like, can you imagine how scared you would be? Just like...
You'd probably be terrified.
The part that was...
Well, and then it's like, are they going to come back?
Yes. That, and if I was the person sitting with you, I'd be like, I don't want to sit here. What if they do come back? And then I'm here. The part that was kind of frustrating to me, and I shouldn't be frustrated because, my God, this woman had her throat cut and she's like just trying to survive, is they got no details of what this person looked like. So I would be sitting there like, what do they look like? Man, woman.
Yeah, but if your throat's cut, you probably can't talk.
Yeah, fair. So like, there shouldn't be frustration, but I'm just like, God, I just want to catch who this is.
Yeah.
As we move on in the many years that followed these murders, people grew very suspicious and definitely threw out like, this could be this person, this could be that. Every time someone turned up dead, everyone in town automatically was like, Jack the Ripper.
Okay.
It did not matter.
That was their automatic, like,
go-to
call guy.
Yes. Like, it had to be Jack the Ripper. There's no other. It has to be.
It's in the same area. It's kind of similar.
Yeah.
Someone's dead.
And I think police did a very good job of stepping back going, but he's not leaving the same clues kind of thing.
Okay.
They did very good at, like, those original 5 were very similar.
Did they ever catch any of the killers for any of these?
To my knowledge, no. There were people that, like, were brought in and investigated, but no one was ever deemed, like
proven
Jack the
yes,
Ripper.
you did it.
Yeah. And I could never work as an investigator because that would just upset me so much.
Having so many open cold cases.
I would just be like, this person's dead, this person's dead,
and we have no clue, and this murderer's out walking the streets.
Like, we're racking up the bodies, and we can't do anything about it. And the hard part is, like, it's 1888. What are you doing?
Well, because DNA and stuff, like, wasn't really a thing.
Now you have...
I feel like you'd walk into, like, a scene, and they'd be like, ew, there's blood on the floor, mop that up.
Yeah. I feel like...
I'd be like, no, take a sample.
Let's do something. That would be so... I mean, even today, with all the technology we have, I still don't want to work in that. It's just too upsetting. I couldn't do it. But police and historians believe that the original 5 were the main victims of Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, I would believe the same thing.
That maybe there were some other killings that weren't documented well, that he might have struck again. He might have moved and went to a completely new area and did it all over again, and we just don't even know.
Well, it strikes me as weird that he would kill 5 over the course of this 3.5-month period and then just be like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah. That's because, I'm sorry, once a serial killer, always one. You just don't give that up.
I just don't get it.
That's the part I struggled with because I'm
I
like,
just don't get that. And it's with a lot of serial killers because they all
yeah.
have like their thing and they do it
Mm-hmm.
for a period of time and then it's like, okay, they don't get caught. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, well, if I kill again, are they going to catch me? I don't
Yeah.
understand their thought process behind it.
It's very, it's odd. It's something just about it doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah.
And like I said, those 4 other murders that people assume to be heavily linked to Ripper, I don't think was Ripper.
Okay.
I think that they were completely someone else. And the other part that I didn't even include is there were numerous other murders that everyone was like, Jack the Ripper, but there was no link anywhere.
Okay.
But during this time, I think people were so frantic that they're like, every kill is a Jack the Ripper kill.
Yeah.
And
well, especially being in that neighborhood, I'd be like,
yeah.
oh my God, it's probably him striking again.
Yeah. It's just.
He's just doing it in a different way this time.
Exactly. So it just doesn't sit well with me. There had been a couple other killings scattered throughout London, England, this whole time frame.
That they might have tried to pin on him.
Yeah, and I don't think necessarily that they stuck. And maybe my thing is, who knows? Maybe they all are Jack the Ripper, and he just decided to change up how he's doing it. We'll never know.
Yeah.
And the hard part is, I don't think this case will ever be solved. I don't think there's
not now.
It's too long, and they're like, oh, but there's DNA, and I'm like, but do you know how many years later and how it could have been tampered with? It just doesn't seem feasible to be done.
Well, plus like. You would need the DNA of the killer then too. So like, are you
Yeah.
gonna go dig up every grave? Because more than likely, it's probably not a documented grave if he was that.
Yeah, it's just, it's so upsetting.
Like, what are you gonna send him to jail?
Put the
Alright,
corpse
we're
in
putting
there.
Your corpse in jail.
Let's go. Something else I want to mention is that with the original 5 women, I didn't do extensive research on the other 4 that were talked about, but those original 5, they were all spotted with a man prior to their death.
Okay.
And
did it appear to be the same man, or wasn't there enough info on that?
We'll get into that. And I was going to include that with each woman as I went through like their little part of the case.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to like just overwhelm the audience as they listen. But they were all spotted with a man prior to the death. The only hard part about this is many of the descriptions of the man change depending on who you talk to.
Yeah, that's
So-
any eyewitness statement.
Some of the things or some of the details that kind of did stay the same is they were described as a tall, lengthy person and often described as like a very slim or scrawny man. So those kind of stayed the same, but when it came to like hair color and what
Eye
they
color,
wore,
Yeah.
a lot of that kind of changed.
But again, that's any eyewitness testimony.
It is. And the thing is,
Like,
they're
what
all
color vehicle was it? And they're like, I think it was red. And then someone will be like, wait, I think it was white. And they'll be like, yeah, maybe it was white. I'm like, it's so unreliable.
And the thing is, the year is 1888. It's the middle of the night. There's not great street lighting. Like,
Yeah.
you're looking at a man in the darkness of night. How are you going to be? His eyes were blue. He had brown hair. He stood 5'7", 3". No.
Well, you got a good look, didn't you?
Like, we're living in a year where it's not like you have Ring doorbells outside every house and you can get an exact description of a person. Even with Ring doorbells, we can't catch people.
I know.
But the descriptions of the men definitely changed. But those original 5 had all been seen with men shortly before being found dead. The other thing I will note off of that is the hard part about pinning it to like the men they were talking to was the killer is it simply could have just been a customer because they were a prostitute.
Correct.
So a lot of people are like, was it just a customer saying like, hey, thanks? Or was it a killer going, I'm going to fucking murder you right here?
Yeah.
We don't know. And that's another piece of
And
evidence.
with that line of work, it's so wishy-washy of
Well,
what it could have been.
And even now, we look at all these women that still get like killed when they're prostitutes. So like it's hard to be able to depict, was it a customer, was it a killer? We
It's
don't
not
know.
a profession I would recommend for anybody.
No, like just be safe. The world is a scary place as it is. Don't put yourself in more harm. Okay, so I had said this prior, with the Ripper only hitting near or on a weekend or major holiday, it is assumed that the killer was dutifully employed. Many assume
Over his days off, he was going to commit murder.
it was assumed that he was working because I don't think any killings took place Monday through Thursday. It was really a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday.
Yeah, it was.
So it was suggested that he had a job, and on Monday through Thursday, he had to get a good night's sleep to go work his day job. That killing was maybe just a side hustle, which, just upsetting. It's just, I don't know. So you guys, We still have some background that we're going to dig into on next week's episode.
It's just getting a little long, so we're going to have to chop her in half.
We're sitting at about an hour and 10 minutes here. Next week, we're going to be diving deep into letters that were written to police by none other Jack the Ripper.
Supposedly.
Supposedly. We'll put that in there. We don't know for sure. We're going to dive into some of those very famous letters along with the top 5 theories on who the Ripper could actually be. So, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Make sure that you're tuning in to catch up next week on.
Gotta find out what's happening.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of excited to have a 2-part episode.
Cliffhanger.
I don't love that I'm leaving you on a cliffhanger, but
for a whole week. I hope you guys make it.
I hope you are running back next week to hear this episode because I'm very excited. We've never done this before. So please remember to subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. Like us on Facebook and Instagram at Conspiracy Podcast 1. And remember to tune in next week for the part 2 episode of Jack the Ripper, which will be posted on Wednesday.
See ya next week.
Bye, guys.